At my brother's wedding reception, my dad announced, "I need everyone to know that Jacob has always been my biggest disappointment." He said it right into the microphone during the toast at my brother Owen's wedding, while 200 guests sat frozen with champagne glasses in the air. I was standing by the cake table when my father pointed at me and continued, 28 years old and still renting a studio apartment, while his brother just married a surgeon. The wedding coordinator tried to take the microphone, but he pulled it away. Owen got into Yale and Jacob went to state school. Owen runs marathons and Jacob can barely run to catch the bus. My new sister-in-law stood up to intervene, but my father wasn't done. I have 3 sons, and 2 of them make me proud every single day. Can you guess which one doesn't? My youngest brother Nolan was filming the speeches, and his phone was still recording. My aunt tried to grab my father's arm, but he brushed her off. You want to know something else? Last summer at the family reunion, Jacob was the only one who didn't help with Grandpa when he fell. He just stood there. That was a lie, and everyone who was there knew it. I was the one who called 911 while my father shouted and my brothers froze, but I kept my mouth shut because arguing would only make it worse. My father took a slow sip of his wine and kept going. Owen bought a house at 30. Jacob rents a box with a hot plate. You do the math on which one I brag about at the office. He laughed at his own line, and nobody laughed with him. My mom finally wrestled the microphone away, apologizing to the room. My father walked straight toward me, wine glass still in hand. "You're ruining your brother's day by making this about you," he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "I haven't said a word," I replied quietly. "Your presence is enough. Look at you in that cheap suit off a discount rack." The suit was actually a gift from Nolan, bought at a real tailor 2 weeks earlier, but my father never cared about facts when he was on a tear. That's when my Uncle Grant walked over. He'd been watching from the bar, and his face was red, but not from drinking. "That's enough, Gerald. You're embarrassing yourself." My father turned on him. "This is family business, Grant. Mind your own." But Grant didn't back down. "Jacob is family, and you've been doing this to him since he was 8 years old." The mention of age 8 made my father's face change. Several relatives suddenly looked uncomfortable. An older cousin near the head table set down his fork and stared at his plate. "We agreed never to discuss that," my father hissed. "You agreed," Grant said. "The rest of us just watched you tear down one kid while spoiling the other 2. Grant was my father's brother and had been at every family event for 30 years, and I had never once heard him raise his voice at my father until that moment. Then Owen walked over in his tuxedo, trying to calm everyone down. "Please, can we just enjoy the reception? This is supposed to be my day." And my father softened instantly. "Of course, son. I was just trying to give a loving toast." The venom drained out of his face the second he looked at Owen, like a switch had flipped, and that more than anything told the whole room what they had just watched. Nolan stopped recording and walked over to me. "I got everything he said on video," he whispered. "I've been recording his outburst toward you for 3 years." That surprised me because Nolan usually stayed neutral in family drama. "Why?" I asked. "Because what Grant said is true. He's been doing this since Owen was born. When you were 8, you became the scapegoat the moment he had a second son to compare you to." I looked around the room at the frozen faces, the abandoned plates, the guests pretending to check their phones, and I realized that for the first time in my entire life, the cruelty had happened somewhere everyone could see it. For 20 years it had lived inside our house, deniable, my word against his. Now 200 witnesses had watched it with their own eyes. My uncle had said the word scapegoat out loud, and my quiet little brother was standing next to me, holding 3 years of proof. Click here to watch part 2 of the story.